Hey Jamie, so I'm taking a look at your assignment 3 and you're creating the illusion of space through diminishing size. That's pretty clear. And we've got a little sense of volume thanks to gradients that you've used on what look to be round bars on either ends of the rectangular shapes plus the circle in the middle. I'll tell you, I bet you're working in Illustrator. You've got this stroke going around everything. The illusion will be greater if you don't have outlines. Now, let's see. I'm looking at your texture, which does seem to meet the assignment. However, I noticed you didn't post anything other than the work in the 2 assignments, and I'd really be glad to see a little more from you. For instance, how did you make this texture? Okay, Nicholas, looking at your assignment 3, I see you're using diminishing size and 1-point perspective chiefly to create the illusions of space and volume. I like this piece. Notably, there are large spaces of white on top and bottom, which become a part of the design. Toward the center, at the vanishing point, I can't see exactly what's going on with those box forms, and I'm curious about that. It's a little irksome that I can't see what's happening in center. Something you might want to think about or even play up. Now for your texture, what a lovely crystalline pattern. It does appear to be tactile, although of course it's perfectly flat. Here's Kelly's work, and I think I got the texture that she decided upon as her final. She tried quite a few, so it's the large one that looks like a mesh or looks to be woven. Kelly, there's one little thing about that texture that maybe strays from the intent, and that's a kind of halo effect that we see. It might even be as though the mesh is on top of glass and there's a little reflection there. Probably something that's not needed, and sometimes it's good to pare away things that aren't absolutely required. I do like that hair texture, by the way. Now, on to assignment 3, and the large one is the one I believe Kelly considers to be her final, and it might be version 8 or something. She submitted several versions. Well, I like the version that I've added also. That's a preliminary version because I'm getting more a sense of the forms sitting on ground, and they feel a little more like maybe chess pieces. Mics, and I like that texture a lot. It looks like the glistening surface of a slightly shiny but dry oil painting. I can kind of see the texture of the canvas. I do like that a lot. And then his assignment 3, well, that certainly is showing depth and volume. And you wrote a little bit about that, something about polar coordinates and thinking of the small balls as being metallic and the central ball as being a magnet. It's really pretty interesting. Hi, Zane. Well, your assignment 2 certainly does look like tactile texture. As you can see, I'm kind of hankering after an explanation for how these were made, but it wasn't specifically asked for. Looking at your assignment 3, what a progression. I remember taking a peek at the first version. The versions have, really changed the result, and the forms now look a little like a peach or a fresh pea just out of the pod. I like the way that you've used the gradient effect to create roundness and also to let the backdrop be lit on one side and shadowed on the other. So here's Christina's work, and she does tell us a little something about how she creates the pieces with the design software. For instance, with her texture piece, she points out that she's used a number of flares. That's the flare tool in Illustrator and plastic wrap and so on. So, looking at that texture piece, it seems to have a composition of its own. Generally, the typical variety of texture is more repetitive. Perhaps the design is also smaller in scale, but I will grant you that this seems as though I could reach out and touch it and feel texture. It has some qualities akin to maybe frost or ice forming on water. Now, the next one, the piece that deals with depth and volume. What's helping this operate? Well, there's diminishing size, and we've got a light source. The light source, I'm noticing that the light source is top right, but I do feel as though the light source might be outside of the picture frame. But I think you wrote a little note about the light source. Well, here's Paul's work and his texture. Gee, it looks like the fine hair on an animal, for instance. Also, I put a little bit of this other texture that seems almost like asphalt toward the top, just a little bit of it showing. I think he considers the hair or grass to be his final version. And I know that Paul explained that you could kind of lose track of time playing with the filters and creating new textures. Now, also for his assignment 3, he sort of went in depth drawing different compositional tactics after he built his image using first Illustrator and then Photoshop. I do like the final version, the larger one. I haven't cropped that, that's the whole thing. And it's interesting how he's showing us a sense of deep space, but we are barred from entering it. All right, here we have Tiffany's, and her texture first looks a little like a beehive or maybe some sort of repeated cardboard egg carton compartments. It's really pretty persuasive. And I noticed that in the discussion she says she couldn't remember exactly how she did it because she was just trying things one after another. Probably not a bad idea to take a few notes just in case you wanted to recreate something like this. Now, her assignment 3 that deals with volume and space. Well, this is a very different looking work, and it seems as though we're looking at maybe a character. He might be thinking something along the lines of an exclamation. It seems like there's an exclamation above his head, or maybe there's a squashed bug thing happening here. He's just been squashed by the exclamation point or whatever it is. Now Tiffany's doing something that I haven't seen other people try. Now, it's not that you haven't tried it. I haven't noticed you trying it. And that is she's softening the edges of things that she intends to be in the distance. We see that with a row of black ovals that moves up and to the left. So here we have Debbie's working first to her texture, which is pretty interesting. I noticed that the different circles, which do seem like hole punches, why they have a variety of textures. They're almost like they were punched from different patterned papers. I just put an earlier version toward the bottom. I tend to like that earlier version because it does seem very dimensional. I can really imagine touching that texture, and I like the punctuation of the dark blacks. So maybe to have the best of both worlds, you might vary the value more in your favorite one. Now, an earlier version of Debbie's assignment 3, and then the one she finished up with. And by the way, that final is just amazing. I'm very interested not only in the piling up of the spheres and their diminishing size, but also that empty triangle of space at the top is pretty cool. Now, I noticed that the light source isn't entirely consistent, but that's all right. I kind of like the quirkiness of that. But nice work, and I feel as though it's just a million miles better than the earlier version, which was ambitious but not so organized. Now, about that, Debbie explains that she was trying to convey the sense of a geode, which is basically an ugly gray rock with a gorgeous center of crystals.